Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the Forgotten Realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icelandale, head out to Chull or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the Forgotten Realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Gaarawarr's Guide. This time, let me try that again with the closed captioning on. Saturdays, folks, am I right? Welcome back to another edition of Gaarawarr's Guide. This time to the CNE Originals, aka the home team. Yeah. So today we are going to talk about the 13 champions that are actually created by Codename Entertainment. Not based on any specific book or lore, things that they created on their own. With kind of one semi-exception, which we'll talk about. So yeah, we're going to do that. So 13 champions, a lot. That's a lot. So we're kind of going to dive in. Again, this is going to be kind of introduction. I'm just going to run through them. I'm going to show you who they are, where they are. We'll talk a little bit about, because they're CNE Originals, there isn't a whole lot of lore behind them. There's a little bit, but not a whole lot like with some of the other champions. So we're just going to talk about which ones they are, where they are, what their kind of general functionality is. And then we'll do, and that's going to be the first hour-ish. And then the second hour Q&A from all of you fine folks. So yeah, if you have questions, we have, of course, as always, CNEJ on the CNE Games account, pulling questions from chat. When we get to the Q&A portion, I will tackle the specific ones about CNE Originals first, if I can pull them out, and then I'll go into the general ones. So, kind of, as you can probably tell, I went through and kind of prepped us. I threw us into Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus. Why would I do that? Well, it's pertinent to one of the champions, at least. So I figured, hey, why not? So let us dive right in, folks. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. All right. Didn't want to do that on camera. All right. Yeah, the code is live in chat, folks. Don't worry. The code's just as a housekeeping thing. Codes don't update until the people actually appear on stream. So spamming code before that doesn't do anything. and we'll always show the old code. Also, as another housekeeping thing, Jay is pulling all your questions from chat. So you only need to post them once. Jay does a really good job. And then, I will get them at the second part. So he'll make Jay's job easier by just posting once, and then I'm not reading duplicate questions. Okay, away we go. First up, Sysaspia, the snake lady. We could have gone to Chult for this one, but, we're not. This is the Yuan-Ti Pureblood druid that we picked up. Oh, man, you know what? I was going to be like, oh, when did we get that? No. That's too much to remember. One of the things to keep in mind is whenever they go in and make a CNE Original Champion, and you'll kind of note that there's a theme to a lot of these, they try to fill a niche that maybe we don't have just yet, especially when it comes to, say, alignment. So you're going to see a few evil champions, because there aren't a whole lot from the lore and from the books and from the streams. Generally speaking, it's usually, especially with stream champions, they tend to be good, chaotic good. So we will see some more evil champions here. Sysaspia is a healing support who does this in an unusual way, and we'll go into that. Base deck is Blight. Sysaspia unleashes a wave of necrotic energy upon a random enemy, deals additional damage to plants, but no damage to undead constructs. So this is unique. We don't have anything else like this in the game. And I want to keep in mind, this is a support champion, so it's not like you're going to throw them in as DPS. Also, this base cooldown, whew, that's a long cooldown. Another reason why you wouldn't want to throw them in as DPS, despite looking over here and seeing that when they get damage upgrades, they're 1000%. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. This does not mean Sysaspia is a DPS. Trust me, I enjoy super secret support DPS. I enjoy them a lot. This cooldown, nah, no thank you. So let's get some levels into Sysaspia. All right, and let us talk about Halo of Spores, because everything is kind of built around this feature. Sysaspia is surrounded by a torus of necrotic spores. Every second, one of the spores shoots out and attaches itself to an enemy that is near the formation. Oh, there's a typo in there. When enemies are damaged, they take additional damage over 5 seconds. So this is a damage over time effect for each spore affecting them. Normal enemies can only be affected by 1 spore. Bosses can be affected by 4. Sysaspia regenerates a spore every 4 seconds base, and can have up to 20 spores base in her reserve. So, as you can see, she's got now this swirling mass of spores around her. She will send one out every now and then, but we're killing everything right away. So if we don't want to kill everything right away, you will see that one shoots out and attaches itself, right there, you can see the little green dot, to an enemy. And then this stuff happens. This stuff happens because of this. For instance, we have her ultimate up already. Sysaspia causes all of her spores currently affecting her enemies to delve deep into their targets and tear them apart from the inside, dealing massive damage based on the total number of spores in play. These all have spores, and we just popped them all. Like little balloons! Like little balloons. That's what spores do, and that's what the ultimate does. Covered it already. Fungal Infestation is the ultimate. Ha! Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that. So yeah, so that is kind of Sysaspia's key thing, is she spreads these fungal spores, and then they help do things. So let's talk about what kind of things they help do. Symbiotic Infections. Sysaspia uses a reserve of necrotic spores to empower a subtle infection she maintains upon her companions, because she's evil, goading them forward and hopefully assisting her in her own selfish goals. This infestation increases the damage of all champions within 2 slots of herself by an amount for each spore she has in reserve additively. So, this is where Sysaspia gets tricky. She is going to spread, as you can see with the arrows, within 2 spaces of her. She's going to buff someone. Buff everyone, really, but you're really trying to target this on the DPS. And it's based off the number of spores she has around her, but Gaarawarr, she sends these out to enemies. Yeah. This is the dance that Sysaspia does. She buffs based on how many she has, but she also sends them out on a regular basis onto enemies. So there's this dance about trying to keep as many as possible, but also putting them on enemies. Yeah, that's just the kind of the way she works. Then Symbiotic Healing. Sysaspia's Subtle Infection heals damaged champions within 2 slots of herself for an amount per second for each spore she has in reserve. So again, she is buffing and healing based on the number of spores spinning around her, but she's also sending those spores out to enemies. So how do you manage this? There's a couple ways. In the past, I have talked about how Sysaspia is a very niche support. Well, one of the reasons I say that is because Sysaspia is kind of at her best as a swap in on boss levels. Why on certain boss levels where there are a fixed amount of enemies on the screen? Why is that? Well, I think you've probably figured it out, because she uses these spores to go out and spread around, and then she wants to store up a lot. Well, if there's only 10 trash mobs and a boss on the screen, she's only going to send out 14 spores, and then she's going to hit her max, and then she's max buffing, max healing, and max debuffing on the targets, and yay, right? So whereas when she's on these screens like this with just endless enemies, not the greatest, because she's using up a bunch of her buffing and healing to constantly spread those things. So what do you do to manage that? Well, we have specializations. So Simple Infection, she just concentrates on doubling Symbiotic Infection. Honestly, I don't know that I ever use this specific specialization ever. I think generally in the community we use one of the 2 on the right, and I think most people use the middle one, Spreading Spores. So Spreading Spores, Halo of Spores now generates a new spore every 3 seconds, so that's 25% faster. Before it was every 4. So she's gaining them faster, and she can hold up to 30 instead of 20. And since her healing and buffing is based off the maximum number that she has, that not only generates them faster, but gives you a higher max. So a lot of people tend to just go Spreading Spores as default. And that's totally fine. I'm going to tell you what I do, because like I said, I usually only use her as a swap for boss levels. I go Fungal Body. But that is because I really just want the maximum available buffage for those fixed boss levels. And Fungal Body is best because this takes the effects of Symbiotic Infection and Healing and increases them by 200%, so triples them, when Sysaspia's Spore Reserve is full. And her Spore Reserve is really only ever full on boss levels, on those fixed boss levels. So this actually gives you the most bang for your buck and makes her the most useful, but only on boss levels. Whereas this is just general good, solid usefulness everywhere. So when in doubt, Spreading Spores. We're going to do Spreading Spores here in this run because we're not just worried about just the boss level. And that's it, folks. You notice you get Spreading Spores. There's nothing else. She is all in on the buffing and the healing and spreading the spores all around. I do want to talk, remember, Fungal Infestation. We hit that earlier. It took all the spores that were out and then just went boom and popped everything. That's not always something you want to do. Because remember, when you fill the screen with spores, like on a boss level, when you fill the screen, they stop leaving her and you have your max buffage, right? When you pop them all, well, then she starts throwing out spores again to fill up the screen again. So it's super useful. I find it super useful on levels where there's lots of enemies, and they're piling up on your tanks, and you have tons of spores out. Because remember, this is a function of how many spores are out, the damage it does. So I don't find the ultimate useful on boss levels so much as I do on trash mob levels where you're trying to get rid of everything, right? Because she is a support, she has damage all champions, but only one, because then she runs 3 different ability things. So Halo of Spores, Symbiotic Infection, and Symbiotic Healing. So she tags all 3 of these. And then it's ultimate stuff. And then Feats-wise, I run Virulent Spores, Virulent Infection. So this increases the effect of the spores and the effect of the infection. She also has, of course, just general all champs damage. She has some healing bonuses. But I just try to maximize. I try to maximize the damages when I'm putting her in. So that is Sysaspia. And that is all we're going to see of Sysaspia for the moment, because slot 1 has not 1, but 2 CNE Original Champions. Oh, bam! Say hello to Turiel. Turiel is what I like to call the anti-tank. He is... it is a he under there. He is a support champion. However, he goes in your tank line. He is an Aasimar cleric. Lawful good. Now, I did say before, hey, Gaarawarr, you said the CNE Originals were evil. Yeah. But, again, this kind of serves a niche, and the story of Turiel, it just kind of fits. Turiel is best. We are here in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus because Turiel kind of does his best work when dealing with fiends. So base attack, Sacred Flame. Turiel points at a random enemy, and flame-like radiance strikes them from above. And then Beacon of Light. Beacon of Light. Turiel's ultimate attack. Turiel pushes back enemies and slowly increases party damage for 30 seconds as long as no one in the party is attacked. So basically he's like, no, and just shoves everybody all the way back on the screen. And then as they come moving forward, if you can stack effects that keep them from getting to you, he basically just ramps damage as they're walking back towards you. Kind of fun. Let's look at the upgrades. Embodiment of the Law. Q, you will respect my authority here. Turiel buffs all columns behind them by a % for each column further back in the formation they are from them. So, stacking multiplicatively. So, ideally, again, this is ideally. This isn't always how you're going to set up your formation, but ideally, Turiel is all the way in the front, and your DPS is all the way in the back. Who does this work really well with? Delina, frankly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you only use Turiel with Delina. It's just that, in certain situations, that is kind of the best possible scenario for the both of them. But you don't have to put your DPS all the way in the back. You can just put them close to the back. Because again, you choose what's best for the overall formation, not just what's best for one champion. Keep that in mind. But again, you want Turiel all the way in the front. You want the DPS further in the back. Orders demand. When an enemy attempts to... This is what makes Turiel an anti-tank. It doesn't kick in until you hit level 150. So keep that in mind. Turiel is someone you put in when you can level them up fairly fast, and you're not going to be eating enemies before you get them to 150. When an enemy attempts to attack Turiel, they instead attack a different valid target if one is available. When this occurs, Turiel increases the effective embodiment of law by 200% for 30 seconds, stacking additively up to 30 times. So the more enemies that he's kind of going, nope, nothing to see here, nope. I am not the tank you are looking for. The more buffage he gives. So again, you put Turiel in the front line, and he's an anti-tank. You effectively -1 your tank line, because he will push everybody else over to these other 2 tank slots. So they will come in and try to get to him, but they'll end up over here. You do this on any multi-tank front line. Now, if we were in Sword Coast and there's only the one, well, you still -1 tanked yourself, because since he doesn't have anyone to shove off onto, they're all going to hit him anyway, and he's not a tank, so you're dead. You're dead. That's just the way it works. It's just the way it works. I like putting him right here and then making him be like parting the river of enemies. It kind of looks fun when he does that. It's the little things, folks. It's the little things. Unflinching Hatred. After attacking a fiend-type enemy, embodiment of the law is increased by 100% for 30 seconds. When orders demand redirects the attack of a fiend-type enemy, its effect is increased by 100% for 30 seconds. So again, Turiel prefers to fight against the fiends. Prefers to fight against the fiends. So you're going to get the most buffage against fiends. But again, it's a double. It's 100% and 100%. So it's not like you can only use him in fiend areas. It just means that's when he's going to be the most optimal. Voice of Authority. After Turiel attacks, all other champions deal bonus damage on their next attack based on their individual con scores. 50% per point of con over 10, stacking multiplicatively. So Turiel gets a little finicky, and I forgot to pull up my page with this. So I will do this in the background, hopefully while I'm talking. So Turiel really does like it if your primary DPS is a con-based DPS, so it or at least has a lot of Constitution. That doesn't mean that's the only way they're going to work again, but it is going to be helpful. Okay, this is what I wanted, and that will pull up in a moment. Okay, and then this gets modified by Specialization Choices, and this is why I'm pulling up a page in the background. Basically, he changes how much he's going to buff based off your choice here. So either a lawful mission or a hardy constitution. A lawful mission increases the effective embodiment of the law by 50% for each lawful champion in the formation. Now remember, there are two axes when you're talking about alignments. There's the lawful neutral lawful neutral chaotic, excuse me. And then there's the good neutral evil. So left and right. Sorry, reverse camera. So you got to remember that. So one, if you have lots of lawful, you can go this way. But then this increases the base stack size of Voice of Authority to 75%. So Hardy Constitution is, if you don't have lots of lawful and you're just increasing the con bonus that you're getting from Hardy Constitution, you would go over here, right? How do you decide this? For the life of me, I would always just pick one and then go with it and not care. But one day I finally did the maths. So if you go over to the Year 2 Champion Guide for Turiel on the subreddit, so you can find my info here. It's on this page, Turiel in the list of champions. I did a bunch of the math. I did a bunch of the math for you. And then you just have to go look, count up your numbers and look at what your con score is, and you'll figure out which one gets the better bonus. So I listed out like 1 through 10 lawfuls, and I listed out the different con bonuses from 11 and up, because if they're 10 or less, they're not getting any con bonus. But up to 20, obviously, the higher you get, the better. But all of those numbers are over there on that guide. So Turiel does, if you want to really optimize them, you do have to figure out which of these scenarios is going to be the best situation for you. I'm just going to pick Hardy Constitution. Honestly, if I don't know, that tends to be what I just default click, like I said. But when I'm actually having trouble, I will pull up my chart and I will look at my math and I will see, well, which is truly going to be the best scenario going forward. Yeah. So that's there for you. So we got a couple of the complicated ones out of the way first. Now we're going to hop into the rest. So there is only, if you'll notice, I have a lot of champions here. And folks, there's one of these things is not like the other. That's not a CNE original. Well, guess what? This is the one slot that doesn't have a CNE original in it. I don't know why. So hopefully, they make another CNE original at some point, and they'll dump it in this slot so that every bench slot will have a CNE original. But everywhere else we're going to be talking about, you're seeing a preview of who we're going to be talking about today. So up next we have Korth. Korth is our samurai lizard folk, which is always a cool thing to say. So healing support. Now the healing is shields. Healing is shields, and they're not up all the time. I forgot to talk about Turiel's feats and items. My bad. Damage all champions because he's support. Embodiment of the law, authority, beacon of light. Again, no health item because even though he's in the tank line, he's support and he doesn't actually tank anything. And then you get a cooldown on the ultimate. And then feats, the usual increase damage all champions. And then it goes. He's got gold for some reason. Sure, we'll take it. And then he's got embodiment of the law. And voice of authority, right? So, he kind of just doubles down on all of his stuff. So Korth, Samurai Lizard Folk, Samurai Slice base attack. Korth charges out and attacks the nearest enemy with his Samurai Sword. This one is actually important because nearest enemy. Everything is going to, a lot of his effects are going to be based off who he's attacking. So keep in mind, he's attacking the nearest enemy. His ultimate, Hungry Jaws, he leaps out to the nearest enemy and ferociously bites them. What the hell? Causing massive damage and a bleed for 4 times the base damage over 10 seconds. So he throws a dot on people. Huge chunk of damage and a dot. Taking a bite out of crime. Lizard Folk Tactics. Whenever Korth attacks an enemy, here we go, that enemy gets a marked debuff. So everything, his stuff functions off marked. So again, nearest enemy, marked debuff. A champion that attacks one or more marked enemies gets a single 0.25 second reduction to their next base attack cooldown. So he speeds up as long as you're hitting the marked enemy, which is going to be the nearest enemy that was out at the time. He can speed up your attack speed. Now keep in mind, if Korth attacks and kills with his attack, nothing gets marked because it died. It died. So there are no bonuses from marked if you hit the thing and then it dies. So all of Korth's stuff only really applies once you're to the point where only your DPS is killing stuff. Fighting Spirit. When any champion attacks a marked enemy, they get a temporary HP shield. And we'll see that. Look at that. We're shielded. We're shielded, folks. That's how we could get through that level, even though he wasn't a tank. Because Korth attacked, and he marked the enemy, and then Turiel attacked, and then they popped off their shields. This is how you can get shields with Korth. Now they look huge here, but that's because these are squishies who have no health. So it's not an enormous shield. Keep that in mind. But it is a shield. And it's got a 15-second cooldown on how often it applies. Calculated. When any champion attacks any marked enemy, again, all about the marked enemies, Korth increases the damage of all champions by 25% for 15 seconds. Well, it's by an amount. This will change. Each in-formation champion can contribute a single stack, and each stack expires separately. So basically stacking up ramping damage by everybody attacking the marked enemies. But again, the marked enemies are going to be the closest enemy. So it's if you have people who are attacking from the back, like Jarlaxle, they don't work with Korth. And if you have a DPS that just attacks random enemies, they work with Korth, but it's harder. Usually if you compare them with someone who does AoE damage or attacks the nearest enemy and does AoE, that's the best. So Korth saw a lot of action with Zorbu for that reason, because Zorbu just spears everything. We'll talk about that later. Rapid Strike. When any champion kills a marked enemy, they get a 25% chance to immediately attack again and have 5 seconds removed from their ultimate attack cooldown. This is fantastic. It's screen clearing and it gets you your ultimates back faster. But again, they have to have killed the marked enemy. So only works when you're actually killing things. Strength Before Death. This is the odd ability for Korth. I think they were trying stuff out. They ran with it. When Korth is about to die, he's not a tank, he is instead resurrected at 1 HP and instantly performs an ultimate attack against the enemy that struck him. This ability has 3 charges, which restored a rate of 1 per 5 minutes while online. So effectively, it can happen 3 times in a row. This is really only useful in those situations where your whole party is taking damage from a boss or some kind of effect. And basically he jumps out and you basically get free ultimates. So it's nice when you're in an area where ultimates are killing things. Other than that, not a big deal. Now his specs are actually useful choices. These are based on how you're building your formation. So group tactics, champions adjacent to Korth do 100% more damage against marked enemies. So a little bit more damage buff if you can place them adjacently. Remember, the current kind of a support economy, though, is that everybody wants to be adjacent. So you can't always do that, which is then where rapid training comes in. Champions not adjacent to Korth have their attack cooldowns reduced by 0.25 seconds when attacking marked enemies. So that's on top of the 0.25 you already get, so that doubles it. Additionally, their chance to rapid strike is increased by 25%. And remember, rapid strike lets you attack twice in a row. Like, it gives you another bonus attack, and it lowers your cooldown on your ultimate, right? So the rapid training basically lets everything happen faster. So if you're looking for fast against when you're hitting marked, rapid training, but if you just need the damages, then you go group tactics, right? We're going to go rapid training because we're going to have him all the way away from our eventual boss. Now, again, I'm popping this shield. This is marked. This is what is marked. This is what course marked looks like. This enemy is marked, and we're just attacking him over and over and over and over again. But we're going to die, folks, because we don't have a tank yet. And yeah, that's it. That's it. Items and feats. Again, damage all champions because support healing. You got Fighting Spirit. You got Calculated. These are the two buffs you're going to get. And then we have ultimate attack damage and cooldown. I actually do run Fighting Spirit. That's his. That's the nice little bonus with the shields, because I want him as big as possible when I'm using him usually. And then I run Calculated. He does have all champs damage if you just want the damages. And then he has a Wisdom one, which would take it up to 14, which I believe qualifies him for Nerec. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to get there. Nice down here. Next up, hey, we kind of need someone to bounce people off of. Let's bring in Gromma, folks. Let's bring in Gromma. Gromma Nander is a Tortle Druid. This is not to be confused. With the Tortle that Marisha Ray played in the Force Grey finale. That was a completely different Tortle, and this is now a completely different voice for me. That was a completely different Tortle. I can't remember the name of that one off the top of my head, but this is an actual CNE original. Gromma arrived as part of kind of like the bonus thing when they were doing Tortles, and they were like, hey, we made Tortles, and let's make a Tortle to go with the new Tortles that come out, and she's awesome. Here's the original skin, but we're going to leave the Druid Warrior Gromma on, because who doesn't want this thing on the back with holding a spear to make sure no one comes at Gromma from the back. Come on. Base attack slow and steady. The base attack changes, and we'll talk about that. Gromma Nander, moving faster than you would expect for an 80-year-old Tortle, stabs the closest enemy with her spear. So it gets right out there. She is an awful neutral. DPS tanking support does not do all these things at once, folks. Does not do all these things at once. You have to choose with your specialization. Choose with your specialization. But because this is an option, starts at 20 Overwhelm. Just starts at 20 Overwhelm. Has this regardless of what specialization choice you take. And Gromma, unlike some tanks, is unique in that no matter what spec she's in, she gets all the health she would normally get from being in her tank spec. So whether she's in her DPS role, her tank role, or her support role, she's going to have the same health across the board and the same Overwhelm. She just doesn't have the tanking features she would normally have. And we're going to have to go over, this is going to be a longer episode than usual, because we're going to have to go over all three of her forms. So here's what the same is. Here's what is the same. Here's what the same is between all the forms. So it's the stuff before the spec choices. Hardened Shell decreases the effect of Overwhelm debuff on Gromma by 25%. So she gets this tanking effect no matter what. Grandmotherly Love, this is her main buff, increases damage of all champions in proportion to their age. Champions get a increase reduced by 1% for every 10 years old they are over age 20. So the younger they are, the more of a buff they get. So keep in mind that if they're really old, like say Zorbu, not getting a huge buff from Grandmotherly Love. But that's fine, because Gromma support and Gromma tank isn't about Grandmotherly Love. And we'll get to that. So spec choices are what kind of determine what's going on. We're going to hop into Circle of the Mountain first. Well, yeah. We'll hop into Circle of the Mountain first. Circle of the Mountain, Gromma gains Stone Skin and takes half damage from all ranged attacks. All right, I'm just going to level up a bunch here so we can talk about what changes after this. So this is Gromma's tank spec. Notice the Overwhelm didn't change. None of that changed, but what we're going to see here is Spiked Shell comes in. Enemies that attack Gromma gain a pierced armor effect, which makes them take additional damage. This effect can stack up to 25 times per enemy. So this is a stacking debuff, but they have to hit Gromma for this to work. They have to hit Gromma for this to work. And to really max it out, they got to hit her 25 times, which means she has to live through that kind of a beating 25 times. Shades of Grey increases the damage of neutral champions for each enemy attacking Gromma. So this is specifically a call out to buffing neutral champions, and this is what we're talking about. You kind of have to, if you're not using a neutral DPS, Gromma in tank form is still good. It's still good because of Spiked Shell. But you know, keep that in mind. So good with a neutral DPS like Ashara, say. And then Ancient Heroism. This is the health share. So increases the health of all champions by 25% of Gromma's max health, right? That is buried in the DPS, or in the Stone Skin line. So the tanking line. And we'll see. I don't know if that one is in all the others. But here I'm going to pop a potion of specialization so we can change Gromma's spec. And we're going to go into Circle of... Well, no. We'll go into Circle of the Swamp next, because I want to end up in Circle of the Arctic. Circle of the Swamp. Gromma now casts Melf Acid Arrow as her primary attack. Well, now Gromma is a DPS. Now Gromma is a DPS when you choose that right spec. Again, all of the stuff up front is the same. It just changes afterwards. If you'll notice... No Stone Skin. Now we have Acid Splash. Melf's Acid Arrow does a % of its damage as splash damage to nearby enemies. And it's a big %, which means she's going to hit one target and then do more damage out around them. So it's kind of like Krull's Traitor effect, if you want to think of it that way. So this just basically gives a Gromma wave clear, AoE wave clear. Love Thyself. So this increases the damage of Gromma by a % of her grandmotherly love buff. So she gets her own buff. Another way to help make it up there. And Ancient Heroism is here, so she is self-sharing in all specs. That's wild. That's wild. Yeah, so that makes Gromma functional as a support in all of her specs in terms of sharing health. So the Gromma's just great on that. But again, that's the DPS spec, and that's it. That's all she gets for the DPS spec. It's just she changes into a ranged magical attack. Oh, I should point that out. This does change. Now you see Melf's Acid Arrow, and you see a ranged magic attack here. So she is now a ranged magic tank. But keep in mind, that does not allow her to be used for Ikoria, because you have to default be a magic-based champion. However, that's for unlocking Ikoria. However, you wouldn't want to, but you could use her with Ikoria as a magic range tank by putting her in her DPS spec, but I don't think it's worth it, folks. I don't think it's worth it. But you do you, whatever you want. Circle of the Arctic is where, personally, I go all the time. Gromma casts Sleet Storm when they attack. The target enemy and all nearby enemies are slowed by half, and their attack timers are doubled. I love this. I love this. This is my favorite part of Gromma. This is why I use Gromma all the time. Now instead, up here we have at 200 Freezing Breeze. This is when we get our debuff. So enemies affected by Sleet Storm take additional damage. So again, Sleet Storm hits the target that you hit and everything around them, thus debuffing them all. And they're all already slowed by that, and they're attacking half as often. So it's a great survivability feature, as well as a debuff. And that's it. That's it out of this. But that's enough, frankly, because unlike the tanking debuff, you don't have to wait till Gromma takes a bunch of hits. Gromma's debuffing everything she's attacking. I'll show you the effect here when she goes out. Oh no, she's killing everything, so I'm not going to show you the effect. I lied. You'll see it when we get to one of those segmented ones, but there's this little, it should be a little effect, and then you'll see them slow down, and it doesn't stack, but like some things. But yeah, it's pretty neat, pretty neat. That's Gromma. That's Gromma. That is where I tend to put her all the time, is just in the Sleet Storm, because I want those debuffs. I don't want to wait for them to hit her. I want them out right away. She has increased all champs damage, which is frankly what I tend to leave her on. She has self damage. She has health. She has overwhelm. She's got a lot of options here. I don't don't really use those unless I'm like putting it in and I need health. Usually I want damage. So you can swap out. She's got 2 health things. Those are nice. She also has an int one. This qualifies her for Strahd. She has more DPS. She has more grandmotherly love if you need it. And then her items are all over the place because she's everything. So she's got a self-damage item. She's got a damage all champs item. She's got grandmotherly love. This hits all of her stuff. Spike Shell, Freezing Breeze, and Acid Splash. She doesn't have a health item. But she has her ultimate stuff. Her ultimate is this giant wall. Hoa bam! It does damage and prevents things from passing. So this Nalfashni back here can't get close to us. Now we're going to see the freezing portion. There, see, it's the snowflake. So once he's the snowflake, see how slow he's moving now? Yeah. And when he starts attacking, it's going to be half as good as usual. Speaking of attacking, let's move on to our slot 4 champion, Stokey. Stokey. Let's get stoked. Stokey's on the field. So Stokey applies, as you can see, there's an icon out here with a golden palm. We're going to talk about that. Stokey applies all the things. And you like those debuffs. The attack is Flurry of Blows. Stokey leaps out and attacks random enemies with her fists. So that's multiple. She gets more than one attack. Her ultimate is Quivering Palm. Stokey leaps around the screen, attacking random enemies and causing damage over time. Yeah, this one's dead. So we won't get to see that. But it literally, exactly what you think. This little gnome monk is just bouncing all over the place, smacking things with her fists. It's great. It's great. Lawful neutral, support gold, because there is a bit of a gold find action to this. Key strike. Enemies attacked by Stokey gain a mark of key. Stokey increases the damage of all champions on the edge of the formation by 100% for every mark of key active. There has been talk about what exactly constitutes an edge. And I think what we've come down to is anything on the outside is considered an edge. Even if there's a hole, like a gap in here, it doesn't consider things around an inner hole to be an edge, which I would argue it should, but it doesn't. Just the outside stuff. Now, interestingly enough, in this formation, everything's an edge. It's almost like I planned this. So yeah, just remember the buff that Stokey gives, the DPS has to be on the edge for it to activate. Golden Palm, champions adjacent to Stokey cause enemies they kill to drop more gold for every mark of key active. So this is a kind of a build-up DPS. It matters more when you're towards the end and you're having to tank a while, and she can stack up all the marks of key. Extra attacks. She's going to be given extra attacks as she levels up. Key infusion. Mark of key can now stack up to 5 times on each enemy. This increases the bonuses to key strike and golden palm. And if we look at, we're fighting Tiamat. If we look down here, you can see when she hits it, she'll get little counters and little marks above the fist. Let's go ahead and ultimate. There we go. Well, yeah, the heads are going to change, but as she punches, you'll see the numbers. You'll see the numbers above the fist, like there'll be little marks that come up above them, so that you know how many marks of key are active. And yeah, that's it until we get the ultimate. All right, or until we get to the spec choice. Key overflow versus key explosion. Overflow is enemies with 5 marks of key have a 33% chance to be stunned for 5 seconds when hit by Stokey, taking 100% more damage during this time. So this is nice if for bosses, right? This is going to potentially stun them, because once she gets the 5 stacks, 5 marks of key, that's going to be there, and then she's going to stack them, 33% of the time she's going to stun them. And then they take more damage. So key overflow is kind of if you're having issues on boss levels, right? Key explosion is more for clearing out the trash mobs. Enemies with 5 marks of key have a 33% chance to cause a key explosion when hit by Stokey, dealing 10 seconds worth of bud, so it's like a mini ultimate, to all enemies within a small radius and granting a mark of key to all affected enemies. So it's this really nice wave clear feature, which is what I use it as. Could you use it on a boss level? Sure. Still works. And because it's doing bud damage, as long as you're in a place where your ultimates are still hurting bosses, that's going to be fine. Key overflow just works against bosses everywhere. We will do... I don't think we could stun Tiamat. But you know what? We'll take it. If you haven't seen Tiamat in game, folks, here's another reason I chose this mission. The Tiamat fight is awesome. The heads move in and out, and you're kind of on a timer on how quickly you have to kill them. That is all the upgrades for Stokie. Items support damage all champion items. There's the Golden Palm, so you can up your gold find. There's the Key Strike for the damages, and then it's ultimate stuff. Over here, same type of thing, damage all champions, and gold. That's it. Stokie is underrepresented, kind of like Calliope in terms of feats. Hopefully this changes one day, because you really only get damage all champions or gold. It's like, what? Where's the Key Strike bonus? Come on. So Stokie's really straightforward, in terms of support buff. Does have some placement positioning stuff that they want to talk about, but as long as your DPS is on the edge, you're fine. Living on the edge. Now we're going to talk about Xander. Welcome everybody to the Xander stream. Xander is a chaotic good human rogue support that was created by CNE, and that's all we're going to say. And no, you don't need to put any more in chat, because that's not anything we're ever going to talk about. Acrobatic Backstab is the attack. Xander backstabs a random opponent. Unfortunately, he doesn't always exactly hit them. 33% chance to miss their attack. Yeah, Xander. 20 dex, though. He's a dexty guy. So Lucky Shot. Whenever Xander lands a killing blow or anyone kills an enemy affected by distraction, there's a % chance that the enemy awards double quest progress. This, folks, is a speed effect. However, it requires that Xander kill them, or someone kill something that he has distracted. Well, how does he distract things? When Xander attacks and misses, the enemy is marked as distracted and it will trigger Lucky Shot no matter who lands the killing blow. So this is why when I say Xander isn't really a speed a champion, this is why. Because Xander has to either kill things, which if you're click killing stuff, doesn't do anything, or he has to miss, which is a small percentage of the time, and then that person has to kill. So it's just an incredibly minor and not super noticeable speed effect, along the lines of Minsk, who I also don't think, even though they have a speed effect, isn't really a speed champion. So ignore those kinds of things and go with their actual abilities. Streetwise increases the damage of all champions in the column behind Xander. So you want to put them in front of your DPS. So if we were to move like Stokie here, they would be buffing Stokie as our DPS, even though Stokie isn't a DPS, but we'll change our DPS in a bit. Childlike Wonder, increase the effect of Streetwise by 50% for each Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard champion adjacent to Xander. So here's the other finicky thing about Xander. He really wants to be in a group where you have Sorcerers, Warlocks, and Wizards. So he's kind of he's the deck support for magic groups? Sure. That's what we're going to call it. Spec Choices, you can either be the tryhard, or you can follow closely. The tryhard, trying extra hard, increases the chance for acrobatic backstab attacks to miss by 100%. So this takes you from the 33% to 66%. So they're missing most of the time, which helps a little if you're trying to use them for speed. But you're getting speed kind of at the end of your run, which is a weird thing to want to have. And again, he has to miss them, and then someone has to kill them, and that's just an odd effect. So follow closely is usually where you're going, just for buff wise. So this is for speed. If for some reason you were doing that, this is for the buffs, because it triples Streetwise. Now, we bag a lot on Xander. We say they're not the greatest champion and kind of do ignore them. It's because of the speed effect. I have functionally used them as a support, but it's literally all they really have is just buff the row behind them with that ability, and that's it. And you really do want them in a group with magic champions, or else it's just not. You kind of need some of that extra. You kind of need some of the extra chutzpah, and that's only if you have them. You don't put them in just because. Like, you don't build around Xander. You just don't. So damage all champs items. You get the chance for Lucky Shot to trigger increase. You get Streetwise, and then he does ultimate attacks. The ultimate is the coolest thing about Xander, frankly. Damage all champs feats, and then Streetwise bonuses, and then charisma up 1. Sure. Here we go. Friends in high places. This is his ultimate. Xander uses his miniature statue to summon one of Waterdeep's giant walking statues. A giant stone foot smashes all enemies from above, dealing massive damage. Come on. There it is. Just kind of comes down and steps on everybody's head. It's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. Best part about Xander. And that's it. But really, if you want speed in this slot, you go Briv, because his same slot is Briv. So it's kind of like, why? Why are we having this discussion? Briv exists. So let's not. No, we do want, we want this, we want this. Okay. Cron, folks. Cron is your evil DPS. If you ever wanted an evil DPS for your formation, here you go. Now, yeah, Archon exists. But Archon is this weird, you kind of have to build around him real weird. Cron is just straightforward. I'm going to smash things with my hammer. This is a skin. This is, I think, the cool skin. This is his regular form. This is the Silver Dragon Cron skin, because why wouldn't you want him decked out in armor? It's just cooler. Orcish Smash. Cron leaps out and attacks the frontmost target with his bonded Warhammer. Yes, he does. He's a half-orc fighter DPS. That's all he does, folks. He just does the DPS. Right away, the very first thing you do is you queue into his Specialization Choices, because these are the cantrips that he casts with his attack. So Thunderclap, it adds an AoE to his attack. So it hits, and then it, thunderclaps out around it. Shocking Grasp adds a stun. Stun and additional damage. So it's a 3-second stun. And then Firebolt turns it into a multi-hit attack. It causes attacks to deal additional damage to 3 random enemies. This can, if I remember correctly, work all on one enemy. This one kind of builds up the more you hit the same enemy. So this is kind of the boss killer. This is kind of the AoE wave clear. And this is kind of the segmented armored with a little bit of AoE wave clear, because it's hitting multiple attacks. Most of the time I'm going to go Firebolt. That's what I'm going to do here. But, you just know that's kind of the differentiator. This is kind of a stacking more damage if you're hitting the same target. But this is kind of, all the things. Let's get him all the way up here as far as we can go. All right. So you pick that right away, and that kind of determines his usefulness for the rest of your run. Eldritch Strike. Enemies that Cron damages will take additional damage from his cantrip spells on subsequent attacks. So the more often you hit the same enemy, this is how this kind of ramps up. The more often you do this, the more damages he gets. So again, this is kind of the boss. This is the boss killer. You're going to just keep hitting and hitting. But it also helps if you've just got a buildup of enemies that you're not one-shotting, right? So, doing that stun with the other one and then building it up over and over again is super nice that way. Survival of the fittest. This is how you build Cron's formation, though. Increase the damage of Cron by 1% for each champion of the formation who is evil or has a strength score of 16 or higher. So, do you lift, bro? Cron wants to know, because if you do, he wants you on his team. Or if you're just evil, or if you lift. Either way. So building him out, this is someone, because of the amount of bonus you get, building out this formation is how you want to do Cron. You do want to target around strength, high strength or evil, because he's going to get lots of bonuses. Now, obviously, you're not going to throw in someone really, really, really bad support for that, but, there are a lot of options out there you can use. Strength scores, if you're ever wondering, why do some people have a strength bonus? In some cases, it's so they can work with Cron for survival of the fittest. Not all. That's it, folks. Notice there's nothing else here, because he hits things hard. That's what he does. So, self-damage on Cron. This buffs all of his cantrip abilities. This buffs his survival of the fittest. And this is his ultimate stuff, which we'll get to in a moment. He does have damage all champions. Feats. But it's really just another way to buff himself. It's just really another way to buff himself. He has a wisdom one, so wisdom can go up by 1. He has higher self-damage and then survival of the fittest. You can tell I don't use Cron a lot, because otherwise I would have bought this. Because this would be the one you would go with. His survival ability fit is 40, and then the savage attacker 60. Those would give the biggest bonuses, but I don't use Cron as all the time as a DPS. Some people do. If you really want to get into the Cron game, you can hit up the Discord. There are some major Cron users in the Discord, and I think it's great. I love it when people choose champions and then just go all in. Cron's ultimate, Cron throws down his Warhammer and leaps up into the air, teleporting to a random enemy and causing massive AoE damage by slamming down to the ground and casting Shatter when he appears. Boom. It's cool, but it does a lot of AoE damage. That's Cron. That's Cron. Obviously in a very competitive slot, as we all know. In my mind, slot 6 is the kind of ideal slot. I think it's the high water mark for the game. I would like all the slots to be this competitive, quite frankly. Because there are situations where I would use all of these, and they would all do very well in their niche. And that's what I want out of all the champions. So we're going to skip 7, because again, there's nothing here that's CNE Original. We're going to hop over here, where there's 2. So we're going to throw Nrak in first. Nrak is our Gaarawarr monk. Straight out the astral plane. So he is DPS support, but frankly, he's only ever really going to get used as, well, most of the time you just bring him in for support. Lawful neutral. Naginata. Nrak attacks the nearest enemy with his Kinsei weapon. That's going to be his base attack, so nearest enemy. Keymaster. Nrak gains 1 key point every time he attacks with Naginata. Each point increases his damage additively and reduces his base attack cooldown additively. Stacks up to 8 key points, so the more he attacks, the more damage he does, and the faster he starts attacking, which is neat. I'm not going to lie. I have used Nrak as a DPS before, but generally speaking, Nrak gets used as a support, generally speaking. As you can see, this stacks up above his head. You can see his stacks, and you notice the ticks are going up, and then they're coming down. Why? Well, here's why. Stunning Strike. When Nrak attacks with at least 4 key points, he consumes 4 and stuns all enemies he hits for 2 seconds, while also dealing 100% more damage. So he gets a nice little stun effect. Death Strike. Every second base attack deals a huge chunk of more damage and grants an extra key point. So he just kind of builds up on his attacking. Kinsei Cleave. Add a wide AoE cleave to every 3rd normal attack. So he just gets functionality as he goes up. And then Gaarawarr Focus. This is generally, sadly, what everybody uses Nrak for. Increases the potency of formation abilities of adjacent champions with a wisdom score of 14 or higher by 50%. This percent will go up to a max. It's not buffed by an item or a feat yet. But this is what everybody uses this for. This gets up over 100%. I think like 180 something, if I remember, or 60 something. We'll see it in a bit. This is usually what you do, and this is why people have wisdom feats that get them to 14, because this is the bonus. So when you put them next to somebody that has that 14 wisdom, like over here we've got, here's the wisdom score, right? When you put them next to someone like that, it buffs those abilities by an amount. This works also on health share. So you can increase the amount of health share on champions that qualify, tanks that have wisdom 14 or higher, and thus make yourself more durable. This Nrak was the key to me beating, Patron Strahd's version of Asoriel's Resolve. Because you lose a lot of your normal champions that help you get past that, and you need survivability, and Nrak ends up being that survivability by buffing health share. Specialization Choice, Kinsei Advantage versus Unerring Accuracy. Kinsei Advantage grants 3 key points if it hits multiple enemies. So if the Cleave hits multiple enemies. So when you've got lots of groups, you're basically boosting your key point generation with the Cleave so that you're doing all of his extra stuff more often. Otherwise, Death Strike does 100% more damage and grants an additional key point on Unerring Accuracy. So I'm just going to go over here. We're going to take that. But that should be Nrak in a nutshell. Let's see. Yep. That was all the Nrak stuff. So he gets an int feat. Again, this qualifies him for Strahd. He gets self damage. He gets all champs damage. That's it. He's very straightforward. His items, self damage, Then he gets Keymaster, Death Strike, and his ultimates. His ultimate, he channels Key into his Naginata, increasing the damage dealt by all his attacks for the next 30 seconds. So this is a self-damage buff. Again, not super useful if you're using him as support, because it just makes him do more damage. But you can see he glows. He's got this energy in his weapon now. It's pretty neat. The other champion in this slot, though, that is a CNE original, is your favorite, my favorite, everybody's favorite, Human. That's right, folks. Human, 3 kobolds and a trench coat. Technically a CNE original champion. This was the one I was saying before. Well, sort of. But yeah. 3 kobolds in a trench coat, as an idea, does appear in Icewind Dale, the Rime of the Frost Maiden, the campaign book. However, Human specifically is not called out. Human specifically was created by CNE. So they kind of took this idea of 3 kobolds in a trench coat, made it their own, and made it a CNE original. Welcome to the home team, Human. So Human, crossbow bolt, base attack, middle kobold shoots a random enemy with a small crossbow. Because why not? Human is male and female. There's 2 males and a female in this. He counts as a kobold and a human. For things. Now, this is both good and bad, because if something is only going to work on monsters, it's not going to work on Human, because he's a monster and not a monster at the same time. Sometimes it's a benefit to have both of those tags. Sometimes it's a detraction. Welcome to Human. He's a rogue bard, lawful evil, pure support. He is the most broken speed champion in the game, and by broken I mean like overpowered strong, when you get lots and lots and lots of item levels on him. It's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Right up there in the OP tier with Briv. There's lots of Human functions based off where he's placed, where they are placed in the formation, and there's a couple different things that affects. So teamwork. Different kobold takes the top slot based off where they're standing and provides a different buff. So if Zrang, if they're in the front-ish columns in this number, like front 1 or 2 columns, it depends on how stretched the formation is. Enemies have an extra chance to drop double quest items or count for double quest progress. So if I wanted speed, I would have them up in one of these, like we'll put them up here for the moment. Normally you wouldn't have them here. I'd put them right back here, but this is going to function for now. So now you can see this is active and the others went inactive, right? So this is how you can tell which effect is working, as it tells you right in here. If we put them in the middle column, Cleave increases damage of champions against boss enemies. And if it's a hits-based or armor-based health boss, it doubles the number of segments you destroy. So they're the boss killer, and the segment hit-based stuff killer when they're in the middle. And Yasa, when you're in the back, increases damage of champions in the 2 columns in front of Human. So this is just the general damage dealing bonus. That's more for killing trash mobs in the levels leading up to the boss. And then you want to switch over to the boss, because that's just a much bigger buff. Now, hello fellow Humans confuses a lot of people. So let me clear up this confusion. This does not change ever. What like there's a specialization that people think is going to adjust hello fellow Humans to change what Human is. It doesn't. It just changes how hello fellow Humans works. So this increases the effect of Cleave and Yasa's teamwork abilities. So this is in the middle or the back, based on the number of other humans in the formation. It's not something you build around. It's just a bonus that's nice to get if you have more humans. But you can choose a spec choice to change that. Carefully balanced is what affects Zrang. So that's the top one. This is the speed effect. So this is the ability you want to boost if you want to boost the speed effect. So this, but basically just multiplies that. And there are items for this. So hello fellow humans gets an item, and carefully balanced gets an item. Carefully balanced is the epic everybody wants, because this is the speed epic. And this is the golden epic everybody's hoping that CNE creates, because why not? Now here's what confuses people. Did we say humans? We meant blah. So the hello fellow humans ability now uses the most populous race in your formation instead of human. So if you have lots of half-orcs, if they're the most populous race in your formation, hello fellow humans now buffs based off half-orcs. That does not change human into a half-orc. It just changes how the buff works. Okay? This is what people get mixed up a lot. So keep that in mind. I'm going to say it again. This does not change the fact that human is a kobold and a human. This just changes how the buff works. Impressive coat work, though, increases teamwork abilities by 100%. This is the one, if you just want to boost your speed effect, this is what you take. This is what you take. If you'll notice, we have gone over the first hour already. We still have a few champs to go, so we're going to keep diving through this. So our Q&A will be a little shorter. It's just kind of the way this is going to work today because we got 13 champions. So please stand by. This is the other thing that is affected by where you place them in the formation. The 2 kobolds that are not on top provide lesser buffs passively. These are not buffed by hello fellow humans. So Zrang, if Zrang was not on top, boss enemies move slower. If Cleave is active, hits-based enemies have a 50% chance of spawning with 25% of their hits already gone. It's just super nice. And then Yasa reduces base attack cooldown of champions adjacent to the kobolds by half a second. So these are things to keep in mind. These are lesser buffs, but these kick in based off who is not on top. So when we're doing speed, you get these others. You get a chance of lower number of hits and faster attack speed. Now the ultimate does different things depending on on where they are in the formation. So right now with Human in the front, the kobolds pepper a random enemy with bolts, and Zrang's teamwork is doubled for 30 seconds. So when you're using Human for speed, you want a familiar on this ult to keep it going all the time. I need to back up a level or else I can't move Human. When they're in the middle, this now says the kobolds pepper a random enemy with bolts. Non-boss enemies are stunned, and no additional enemies will spawn for 15 seconds. Boom. Notice we now have no spawn. Right? So this stops spawn for a moment if you need to, for whatever reason. Okay, and then we move into the back. Kobolds pepper random enemy with bolts. Reduce any active ultimate cooldowns of all champions in the formation by 25%. This gets you your cooldowns back. This is the biggest chunk, biggest way to reduce your cooldowns and get them out quicker for ultimates is by using this in the back. It's fantastic. So if we hit this, and this is a 94-second cooldown, see it's counting down a minute 33. Boom, now we're down at a minute. Just like that. Just like that, folks. All right, let's go back. So that's Human. That's Human. Feats. Carefully balanced is the speed feat. Increase damage of all champions as bonuses, and then you can go hello fellow humans, but obviously carefully balanced. They do have an int feat, which would qualify them for Strahd, so keep that in mind. And we kind of already went over the items. Damage all champions, and then ultimate stuff, along with those other hello fellow humans and carefully balanced. All right, now into, let's go back one more, because we're going to bring out our shorty tank. Let's move this around a little bit. There we go. Lazaps, our neutral evil tank. So, again, you need evil tanks that aren't Archon? Here you go. Goblin Artificer, tanking support. 20 overwhelm base. Thunder Gauntlet is the base attack. Lazaps attacks and stuns the nearest enemy every 5th attack. She uses her grappling fist to pull an enemy closer to her instead. This is pretty neat. Pretty neat. Right off the bat, Power Armor. Lazaps' Artificer Power Armor gains 1 stack. Pay attention. 1 stack for every second that Lazaps is not under attack. So while you are insta-killing things, Power Armor gains stacks. This caps at 100 attacks, or 100 stacks. Lazaps gains a % max health for each stack of Power Armor, stacking additively. So you build up health with Lazaps on the levels where you're fast killing, and then you then get to use up that health when you're on the levels with things that you're not quickly killing. And we'll get into that. Fear of the Small increases all small champion damage for each small champion in the formation. This is dwarves, gnomes, halflings, kobolds, and goblins. So ideally, if you were building a super small group, you would want Lazaps in, clearly. This works well in combination with Ishi. Snaggletooth, because Ishi likes the short folks as well with one of her specs, so you can go all in on that. I don't know how viable those formations are, but they're fun. They're super fun. Tiny Bulwark, when Zaps is under attack, she consumes stacks of power armor and increases the effect of Fury the Small for 10 seconds. This is on a 15-second cooldown. So again, I said she builds up those stacks and then spends them against the bosses. Well, this is one of the spending effects. Shield of Sharn is the health share, so 25% of Zaps' max health, which obviously is going to be different based off how many stacks of power armor you have. Lightning Launcher, when Lazaps is under attack by at least 5 enemies, she consumes 15 stacks of power armor and activates her Lightning Launcher, targeting one of the enemies attacking her and striking all enemies in a line, causing them to take more damage for 7.5 seconds. Lightning Launcher has a 10-second cooldown. So this is basically you're getting beat on, you can't kill things right away. She's going to debuff all the things beating on her for 7.5 seconds at the cost of these stacks. The ultimate is Recharge Overcharge. Now this does different things. So Overcharge, available in more than 20 power armor stacks. She overcharges her power armor, preventing it from gaining any more stacks, but increasing the effect of Tiny Bulwark and Lightning Launcher. So this is what you do to basically ramp up the bonuses when you already have more. The recharge effect. Well, yeah, it's not gonna matter. The recharge effect basically it recharges everything, because we can only see overcharge because I've got more than enough stacks. But I guess we could go back. Hold on. Can I use up some over here? And we'll see if we can get the recharge effect in. But let's go back to explaining. So we did Lightning Launcher, we did Overcharge. Now we do the Spec Choices. So this is situational. Stolen Power increases the max stacks of power armor by 100%, so you can build up more stacks. I like to go for that one because I like my tanks with lots of health. But also it means you can use more of those abilities during the boss fights. Team Player, Lazaps' Tiny Bulwark and Lightning Launcher abilities now trigger when any champion is under attack. So if you're in a multi-tank formation, this would be the one probably you would go with. So in this situation, this would be nice here. And the Zapper reduces the number of enemies required to trigger Lazaps' Lightning Launcher to 1. Increases the effect of Lightning Launcher by 100%. This is basically the boss killer. This is the boss killer. So we're going to go Team Player. We're going to go Team Player. Did we get to... No, we didn't. Well, basically, or recharge is basically the opposite. When you're under 20 power armor stacks, you can hit it and it ramps up what you got. So her ultimate is basically you use that situationally to help yourself out with the stacks. That was the spec choice. Yeah, everything else is after that. So damage all champions are the items. We get Fear of the Small. We get power armor again, and Tiny Bulwark. So you're building her damages and defense through these. And then this increases the effect of the Lightning Launcher. So there are no ultimate stuffs because the ultimate is basically this functional ultimate. I obviously go health. She has the health items. She has the increase all champions damage, and then she has Fury of the Small. Works pretty well. I like the health and with a little bit of the Fear of the Small, usually because if I'm using Lazaps, usually I'm building a small formation. Yeah, we're not going to see the overcharge. All right. We killed Tiamat without a DPS in. What do you know? Next up, slot 10, Barrow Win. Not Barrow Lose, Barrow Win. Barrow Win is our lawful good dwarf cleric of the healing and support variety, and they do that. They do the healings and they do the supports. Their healing is in the form of both healing and shielding, which is a nice combination. Base attack is Mighty Hammer. Barrowin smashes the nearest enemy with her Mighty Warhammer. Healing Word right off the bat. Heals all champions in Barrowin's column for an amount of health every second, and tank champions in the column ahead of Barrowin every second. But it is half the amount for the tank columns in the front. So when we're using the Barrowin, we usually would want to go up here with the Barrowin, which means we would then want to move our disformation around to put things in the back, and this then becomes not super optimal. But welcome to Idle Champions sometimes. Something more like this it would be more optimal. would be more optimal. So for this, and then, but then even this doesn't work. Then we want to do this, and then we want to do this, and now suddenly Xander's useless, which we kind of already knew, right? There. All right. So Barrowin's going to throw healing up in the front. You can see it ticking off, and also in her column. Blessed Hammer increases the damage of adjacent champions, increased multiplicatively by 100% for every second differential between Barrowin's attack speed and the target's attack speed. So Barrowin's attack speed is 4.1, Cron's is 4.75. Not the hugest difference, right? So usually you want to find a long high attack speed. That's going to work better with Barrowin, but there are ways around this. Barrowin interacts with Puent in this regard because you put Puent next to the DPS, but you don't put them next to Barrowin, and Puent slows down the DPS. Barrowin then kicks in, and you have this super high differential. There's other ways to do that, but that is one example. There are other champions that work well with this, but yeah. Shield of Faith. After Barrowin attacks, their next healing word will grant temporary hit points instead of healing. If you'll notice, we do have temp hit point shields up here and in this column, and it's not from, and not necessarily from Korth. Barrowin's dropping that in after they get an attack off. So that's how the healing and shielding functions with Barrowin. Greater Blessing, basically, do you want to do more damage? Versus Booming Voice, do you want to heal and shield more? That's your choices. Choose wisely. So what are you using Barrowin for? If you're using her for survivability, you go Booming Voice. If you're using her for damages, you go Greater Blessing. So Barrowin is fun in unique interactions, but definitely has to be in very specific places to truly do the right thing. Divine Aid. Increase Barrowin's max health. This is where, look at this Overwhelm, folks. Suddenly, we have Overwhelm. We had 10 to start. Increases Barrowin's max health by 50% of the champion with the most health out of the champions in the same column as Barrowin, and increases her Overwhelm point by 15. This can somewhat functionally turn Barrowin into your tank. You can put Barrowin in the tank line in a pinch. She will have lots of health. She will have healing and shields. The shields will be bigger because they're in the tank line. As long as you have other tanks up there that have lots of health, this can work in a pinch. I say in a pinch because Barrowin has no tanking buff, like stacking tanking buff, like where these other tanks we're talking about usually have something that happens if you're running into them. Barrowin doesn't have that, right? Barrowin doesn't have that. But this is where I'm going to swap some things around. Because you could do something more like this, right? You could run Barrowin up here in the tankiness and get lots of heals. See how the heals went up, right? That's a thing. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Just for this demonstration, we're not going to do that. But you can. You do you. So, damage all champions, bonuses. We've got Blessed Hammer and Healing Words, so you can you get the damages and the buff and the heals and shields. And then it's all ultimate stuff. The ultimate is Holy Weapon. Barrowin infuses herself with holy energy, shielding allies in her column and decreasing her own attack cooldown by 2 seconds. Well, what does that mean? That means it increases the buff, right? Because remember, her buff is generated as a differential of her attack speed and the person that she's next to, right? This is going to ramp up the damage while letting her do all of her stuff faster. So Holy Weapon then is a useful ultimate. Now we're into Cron. Cron is... we didn't talk about this. Cron is one of 2 champions that was basically primarily developed by Dylan. Warden was the first. Warden, not Cron. Warden well, yeah. No, Lazaps was the other one. Warden and Lazaps. I'm getting my knights mixed up. Siren Knight Warden. This is the no skin. This is the original corrupt looking. This is what Warden actually is. Super corrupted by the darkness. This is pre-corruption. I like the pre-corruption better. Base attack, Hex Weapon, Arm Blade. Warden leaps to a random enemy and attacks them with their Arm Blade. They are 9-binary in gender. They are they. Chaotic Evil, Warforged Warlock, DPS, and Support. You can use them as DPS. Most of the time you're going to use them as support, though. Everything's built around Hex. Warden casts Hex on enemies as they attack them, debuffing them. causing them to take more damage from all champions. Hex is spread to nearby enemies when a Hex-cursed enemy is killed. Hex also is a lingering debuff, which, what does that mean? That means if I apply it with Warden, and then I pull Warden out of my formation, the debuff sticks around. This is currently a strength of Warden. This may change in the future. They're moving away from that kind of stuff, and at some point they may go back and remove it. I don't know. Thirsting Blade, whenever Warden attacks, they attack the same enemy twice. So a little double hit action. Master of Hexes, enemies that die while affected with a Hex curse now spread to nearby enemies. This was already included in Hex when I described it. And then we have some functionality stuff. Eldritch Smite versus Cloak of Flies. Eldritch Smite, Warden strikes enemies they attack for a third time, dealing 200% extra damage with a 50% chance to stun the enemy. So this is nice if you're clearing out multi-hit stuff, and also if you're using, generally if I'm using Warden DPS, I like this for the single target boss killing stuff. But Cloak of Flies basically does AoE damage, so they do an additional AoE attack for 50% damage when they attack. But again, I like Eldritch Smite, but depending on what you need Warden for, if you need that AoE effect, that can be super useful. Relentless Hex. Hex can now stack up to 4 times, so again, that's more of the debuff. And he has these there's a little dark indicator Hex, and then there's these hashes, little marks at the bottom, so you can watch and see how it's stacking up as you're applying them. They do have self-damage. They do have damage all champions, and then Hex, because that's really all that's going on is the Hex. And then ultimate stuff. Feats are damage all champions, straight up as self-damage, and then they have a con bonus. Because why not? Because why not? Does that qualify them for... No, still doesn't qualify them for Vajra. It's like, yeah, they would need 14. This really needs to be a con plus 2. Con plus 2 would put them into Vajra's category, but they're not there. The ultimate is Hunger of Hadar. Unusual for ultimates in the game. There are only a couple like this. They move enemies. Except for the fixed bosses, they move enemies. So Warden opens a rift to the void, damaging and momentarily stunning all enemies and pulling them to a position slightly in front of the formation. It does that, and if there had been enemies out, they would have been moved all up in here. This is great for if there's ranged enemies back here, and you want them closer to something that you're doing up here, like, say, Strix's debuff. You can hop them up in nice and close to Strix. That's Warden. Warden's pretty straightforward, pretty cool. We're gonna swap Xander out because Xander. We're gonna bring in our last CNE original champion, the one, the only, Zorbu. And notice the others are all either lore or people based. Zorbu for a long time was the #1 DPS in the game. Now, still in the top. Them and Ashara still up there. The Gnome Ranger, Chaotic Good, which... Are they though? DPS support, primarily used as DPS. Sometimes you throw them into support and then they outdamage who they're supporting. So keep that in mind. They do have some skins. I don't have them. There's a Gnome Ceramorph one and a Steampunk one. They're pretty cool. Massive Bolt. Zorbu fires a bolt from his massive crossbow at a random enemy, dealing damage to all. What this means is it's a line-based AoE, so it's going to shoot out towards an enemy, and it can be angled, and it's going to damage anything that the bolt goes through. Lifelong enemies. This is the key to Zorbu. Zorbu tracks his kills against certain enemies, and that's humanoids, beast, undead, and drow, and does more damage against each of these enemies for each kill against them, and this tracks across resets. So when we talk about Zorbu stacking or Zorbu farming, this is what we're farming. We're trying to get kills on these. Mine are up. They're kind of high in the EO5 to EO7 range. EO5, I think, is totally fine. If you just break into the EO5 range, so like 1 EO5, and that's... For people who want to know, that's like 100,000 kills. Once you're above that, Zorb is usually fine and functional. If you're underneath that, he's okay. But he really kicks into his kind of power curve around EO5. You don't have to go beyond that. I just have because I've been bored at times. Seething Hatred increases the damage of Zorbu by 1% of his lifelong enemies buff. This is the core of Zorbu. This is what breaks Zorbu and what made him kind of king of the hill for so long. He buffs himself by all of this again. So he does this, he does more damage against these things specifically, but then he takes these bonuses and does that as damage against everything. Hunter's Pack increases the damage of champions adjacent to Zorbu. This is his support buff. If they have a dex score of 15 or higher, and this also affects himself. So again, another thing that kind of breaks Zorbu, right? Because he's buffing himself with his own support feature. Spec Choices, the only ones that matter are the ones on the left and the right. Lead the Pack is what you're doing if you want to just go kill stuff. If you've already got stacks and you just want to kill all the things, you lead the pack. If you're in the process of stacking, you go Focused Anger, because when Zorbu kills an enemy, it increases lifelong enemies counter by 3. So they get triple credit. So when you're stacking, you go Focused Anger. Once you're done stacking, you go Lead the Pack, because this increases the effect of Hunter's Pack by the bonus given by Seething Hatred. So again, multiplying buffs by other buffs. Favorite enemies. No one's ever figured out why this even exists or when to use it. There may be a small window of time before you're stacking where you want DPS from him, where you would use favorite enemies, but I would argue just that at that point you just go Focused Anger anyway. There's no real point to anything else. All right. Yeah, that's it. That's everything. I was like, Zorb is really straightforward. He just kills all the things. A little racist gnome that kills all the things. This is why I think he should be chaotic evil, because he's a little racist gnome. So he's got a self-damage. He's got an int. This qualifies him for Strahd, and also ends up, because it qualifies him for Strahd, ends up giving him a huge damage bonus. He's got damage all champions. Again, none of these really mac. Hunter's Pack, it doesn't matter until, like, this is all that matters once you get Strahd. But until then, you could do, like, Hunter's Pack, or and with the 60%, whatever. And then he's got a Hunter's Pack 80%. But again, yeah, I would probably use Hunter's Pack 80% over Sharpshoot at 60. You definitely would, because 80% is higher than 60%. And with the Keen Mind, that would make it the best. His ultimate is the Mechanical Squirrel. Zorba winds up a small mechanical squirrel, and since it's skittering towards a random enemy, or when it reaches them, it detonates and does AoE damage. There it goes. Bounced across the screen and blew up. Yeah, against these dragons, you don't notice as much, but it is a nice little AoE. And that, folks, is all 13 CNE Original Champions. We're going to hop out. Did I miss something? Items. Self-damage, Seething Hatred, Hunter's Pack, so all the things you would want, and then ultimates. Yeah, we're good. Everybody's pretty straightforward here. We're going to take a short break. We're going to rest my voice. We're going to listen to the Bardic Inspirations, a song for Warden called Warden's Lament, and I will be right back.
I walk alone across these broken worlds, reflecting back as my life unfolds. I knew my duty, I had my role. I knew my heart's desire, I had a soul. Oh, am I just an empty shell? Am I locked into his hell? Oh, is this all I'll ever know? No heart, no choice, no role. All day of morning, my world came crashing down. In chaos I was bound. You came without a warning, where my kingdom drowned. Skies caught fire, was the end of the war. All hope was lost, there was no more. My purpose twisted, my mind is not my own. My
And we're back, folks. Warden's song is so sad. Like I said, this is all lore, so there's only minor bits of lore about these characters. But Warden was a warden in a prison, and was just doing good things, trying to keep evil at bay, and then got corrupted, and when everything got destroyed. Yeah, super sad, super sad. So we're going to dive into the questions. We already have a bunch of questions that Jay's been pulling this whole time. I'm going to try to get through them all as quickly as possible. We're going to hit the ones that are related to this is first. So Prog Metal, Gene, how do we get the new CNE champions? So these CNE Originals, if this is what you're referring to, these aren't new. These have been out over a while, and they're obtained in a variety of ways. But when CNE releases new champions, they arrive via events usually. Unless they're an evergreen, but we have an event starting on Wednesday, and we get Celise Astoria. If I remember, Celise will be coming, joining us from Rivals of Waterdeep on Wednesday with the upcoming event that also features Korth, one of the champions that we talked about today, and Nova. But the CNE Originals that we talked about today, of those, Stokey, Cron, Gromma, Barrowin, Zorbu, Narak, Xander, anyone else? Warden. Yeah, all of those 8 of the 13 are only available from time gates. The rest will be available in events. Well, the rest are also available in time gates because all of the event champions are available from time gates. But the rest are still can arrive in an event in the future. So yeah, keep that in mind. Let's see what else we got. I'm skimming through here real quick because we don't have a lot of time today. So I'll try to get to as many of these as I can. But I think most of these are general-ish. One of these is related to what we were talking about earlier because Stokey has a Bud-based attack. What does a second worth of Bud mean compared to the Bud number? Well, the Bud number here that we're looking at, 6.22 E141, is a second worth of Bud. It just is, because this is the damage per second. This is your actual DPS. Bud is your actual DPS based off this. It does fall off, right? Like you'll see it's lowering. That's because it's based off the last highest attack. But if you look at the top part, the hit, it takes the total damage divided by your attack speed to give you your actual DPS. So when it says a second worth of Bud, it means you take the number of seconds and multiply it by your Bud, and that's how much damage you're getting. Pretty straightforward. Jubilant Jackrabbit, if Cron is a fighter, how does he get cantrips? He's an Eldritch Knight. He's specifically an Eldritch Knight. But that is part of the fighter class. That is just a specialization in Eldritch Knight. So for Cron, is Cron to melee and magic damage? He is. So the original melee strike is melee, the original attack. But then the cantrip effect is magical, and you can see that as reflected here on his champion sheet. That it's both. Same with his ultimate, because this is basically a massive attack. Do you get 2 stacks for Cron if they are evil and strong? No, it's just it's a binary choice. Are they evil strong? If yes, then bonus. Are they one of these? If yes, then bonus. Anything else? Oh, does Cron's Survival of the Fittest count for Narak bonus? Cron does have Wisdom 14 with the feat. Let me double check again, because I don't always use Cron. It might. So what's our base? Our base is total bonus 1 E12 currently with this. Hold on. And then we will find the Narakage. We went down, but because we lost a... Oh, he's not evil, and he's not strong enough. Who would... Hold on, let me find somebody I can take out. Well, no, it's just going to have to be. Okay, so currently we are at... we will just look at the total. 3 E10. Let me slot the feat for Cron. Yeah, that's the smaller one. 3 E10. Nope. Didn't... Oh, wait, I'm not next to him. Yes, it does. So survival of the fittest, because it is an ability based on things in the formation, does go up with Narak. But remember, it has to be next to them, and there may be a situation where that's useful, but there may not be. So keep in mind that's situational. If you want to know, like I said, there are people in the Discord who main Narak, or who main Cron. So hit up the Discord if you want to find that out. Like, who have just outrageous item levels and only use Cron for everything. Let's see. How do you classify the races for Human? Hello, fellow humans. Drow as elves, like Potpourri. Yeah, everything. Potpourri is, if you've learned races based off Ashara, sure. But yes, races are races. They're listed here. It tells you what they are. So, but there are the functions like Drow are elves, because they are dark elves. Eladrin are elves. They are another kind of elves, but those are the only kind of things that you function off of. So if you have those in the formation, that's how it works. But remember, it has to be those names usually. Those are the only ones that are kind of the crosses. Drow and Eladrin are also elves. Everything else is based off specifically what it says. How do you know if a champion is a CNE original, lore, or a player's character? Is there a mark somewhere, a place to look it up, or just memorization? Currently, it's just memorization. The code that we have today, called the Home Team, is a nod to kind of the thing that the community and Margaret talked about it for a long time in the past on shows, where it would be nice if all of the CNE originals had a home team affiliation, which then designated that these are CNE original champions, or at least just said CNE original. They don't as of now, so yeah, it's just memorization. Anything else specific to this? I feel like Xander is underpowered and overlooked. Any chance of an update on him? I don't know. I'm not a developer. So in that, we're going to head back. I'm going to go back to the top of the list, and we'll do this in a row. Zeratos, what is loot level based off? It's your item levels. It's total item levels across all your champions. I heard on Developer Insights yesterday that they have heard our feedback on that, and maybe they'll try to normalize that and just call it item levels, but currently that's what it is. My total is 281. It hasn't gone up since yesterday. Yeah, you got to open more chests. Open more chests. You raise your loot levels by opening more chests, because that gets you duplicate items, and that raises your item level. Genesis, who is the best DPS in the game? Whoever works best in the situation you're in. That's the honest answer, because not every champ is available in every adventure / variant. Mainly the variants where you get things excluded. So you have to learn to make the best of the situation you're in. That being said, numerically, if you do things in the right way, Ashara and Zorbu are kind of at the top, with Ashara being a little bit in the lead if you have the right champions. I have enough time gate pieces to unlock a slot 10 for split the party. A Havalar. Oh, or I could unlock Mert. Which way should I go? Knockout Panda, I would unlock Mert and then quickly do a couple variants for him, so that you get influence to buy a new time gate piece. And that way you actually will get back to split the party really quickly, while also having patrons active. So yeah, if you can do it right now, do that, because patron chores reset the patron shop and the chores reset on Mondays. So if you can do it before Monday, then you'll be able to pick up a time gate piece right now. And then Monday, when it resets, you can pick up another one, and suddenly you'll have 2 of your time gate pieces back. I don't think one of these will help my lineup, but my time gate got Narak and Walnut. Which one is more helpful? Probably Walnut. Like I said, Narak is really only used for gifts or eye focus, and that is very situational. Chalcoda, I have enough time gate pieces to unlock a slot 1 for split the party. Which one is more useful for split the party adventure, or Kira Deacon? Or Kira. I mean, Deacon's great for speed and is a nice buffer, but Orkira is going to help you not only in that adventure, but also everywhere. Orkira is the current queen of debuffs, so she's going to help you push a lot further all the time. Emote, I'm missing 2 champions for Split the Party 2. Slot 5, I have Calliope and Keelik. I assume we're looking, is there a champion in mind for, yeah, so slot 5, Calliope and Keelik, you're going to want to pick up Briv for slot 5. In slot 7, have Minsk and the Black Viper. You're going to want to pick up Freely. So Freely and Briv, two of the heroes, parties of members of the Heroes of the Plane. Those are the kind of the other. Briv is the extra great option in slot 5, and in slot 7, Freely is best in slot currently. Kinravip, the boss is at level 175 of the Timegate Dead Winter Day, Cathris, the Devourer. I knew it was going to be the Devourer, or refusing to die. Yeah. Do you have any tips or strategies? So Kinravip, unfortunately, the Devourer is the hardest event boss currently in the game. He literally one-shots one of your party members by eating them when he comes out. There is a slight delay before he does it. In that delay, you have to kill him. You just have to. Whatever, like, if you got to fire off all your ultimates, stuns can help. Like, if you have things that stuns, like Nayeli has a stun, you just cannot let the Devourer attack. So, if you are doing everything you can, firing off all your ultimates, and you can't clear the enemies and kill the Devourer with that, then you're just not strong enough yet. You're going to need more favor, which means you're going to need to just you're going to need to bail out of that variant, the 175 variant. You're going to have to go do a free play and push as far as you can again. You need lots of favor. You're going to have to do multiple runs to get enough favor so that you can level up enough that you're over leveled for that boss level to kill him, because the Devourer is the hardest boss in the game. It is truly a DPS check, pure DPS check. And if you don't have it, he's going to eat you. He's going to eat you. And once he's eaten one person, you can just reset. You can just back up and farm gold. You back up to the level right before that, farm as much, or the boss level before that, or the level before that, farm as much gold as you can, try to upgrade. Because if he eats you, you're done. You can't come back from that. Does the Golden Luck Blessing apply to Timegate silver chests? No. Because the Golden Luck Blessing increases the chance that a silver chest off of a boss, when you kill the boss, could be a gold. And that's not how you're getting the silver chests in a Timegate. The silver chests are placed automatically in every inventory once you reach level 100. It's not a drop. If you give if you power up an item of a given rarity, then acquire a rarer version of the same slot, do the levels carry over? Yes, because item levels apply to the slot. They should, technically the term would be item slot levels, but yeah, item levels apply to the slot, so they stick around the whole time. Rarities and guilds, the gilding sticks around forever. So if you have if you for some reason you had a level 500 white shiny, any higher rarities would keep both the shiny and all the item levels. Biocron is a newish EGS player. Ashara and Krull unfortunately share the same slot. Any advice for using them? Sure. I mean, you just don't use them at the same time. There are going to be plenty of situations where maybe you're not going to have Ashara available, and then you'd use Krull with a different DPS. Or maybe you're gold farming, in which case you want to be able to put Krull in and stack up Pilfer stacks, and you wouldn't have Ashara in. Like, you have lots of options because you're going to need them for different variants. So just keep them around. I mean, you're going to have them. You just got to keep them around. Also, try using a different DPS with Krull instead of just relying on Ashara. I know that a lot of the vets like Ashara, but Krull early on is super fantastic because he earns you so much gold and can be better on runs than Ashara. It just depends on how much of a bonus you're getting from Ashara and what DPS you're using with Krull. Krull doesn't work with Jarlaxle. Logical, I just picked up Briv and have been reading how his haste works. It seems like I want to get as many steel bones stacks as I can to get my pool as high as possible. Is there anything I misunderstood? Yeah, that's not really how it works. You want some stacks, but he uses up a percent every time he jumps a level, not a flat number. So having, there is some math that lets you get more jumps based by having higher numbers, but because it's a percent, it's not as big a deal as you might think. So you don't need outrageous amounts. You can have a couple thousand stacks from tanking on a push and be fine. You don't need to save up like 1 million stacks. Yeah. Do the global blessing perks work in events and time gates too? Yes, anything that applies globally applies everywhere. Time gates and events and special adventures like Split the Party. For the time gate, Cathris or Xander? Cathris. Do you get silver chests in time gates specific to that champion? Yes. For achieving each unique 100 levels in a time gate. So the first time you get to 100, the first time you get to 200, the first time you get to 300. You can't just go to 100 over and over and over again. That's not how that works. You have to actually show that you're worthy of earning those in time gates. OMG, what's that Mad Max adventure? A lot of the adventures in Descent into Avernus have times when they're on war machines. So this is Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus campaign. Jane TV, new player don't have any heroes. Timegate says Xander, Lazaps, or Black Viper. I would pick Lazaps. What core Modron do you think can provide the most DPS? The Modest core, Tammin. The Modest core, which is the one you get from the original Split the Party for free, currently has the best bonuses for the meta. The Strong core, not so great, and the Fast core is about going fast. If a champion has a maxed cooldown, so the item levels are maxed on their cooldown reduction, would Human's ult reduce that further? So that's not what that means, B.A. Billy G. It doesn't reduce their default cooldown timer. Like this is reduced to 200 seconds, right? If I hit this and then it starts that timer and then I hit Human's ult, it just reduces the amount that is still left to count down by 25%. Right. So at 200 seconds, if I hit it and then immediately hit Human's ultimate, I would reduce 50 seconds off of that. Right. I think that's right. Isn't that 25? Yeah. So it would lower by 50 seconds automatically. So it would immediately go from 200 to a 150. So it works in that regard. It doesn't work if I hit it before hitting the ultimate. It doesn't lower the cooldowns of unused ultimates. It only lowers it. It basically speeds up the return of an ultimate after you've used it. Is Strix better than the other options of the same slot? No. Avern's the best buffer in the game. Strix is a DPS. And in that regard, Jamila's DPS, Arise is a DPS. In that regard, I would say Strix is probably a better DPS than these two. Strix also has a kind of a supportish debuff, but it only works if things get close to the party. So anything that's over here, like fixed bosses or in some cases ranged attackers, Strix is useless against. Are the stat feats mainly for just getting access to new variants, patrons, and buffs? Yes, that's primarily what they do. They're not actually adding anything to care. Well, they up the stat. Stat doesn't change any of their functional numbers. No, it doesn't. It changes their saving throws, though. So there are occasionally bosses and things where they're going to roll like a saving throw. There's an ability check. Like here, for each point above wisdom, for each... Oh. I should have known. I touched my nose. I was going to sneeze. For each point their wisdom score is above 10, a champion has a 10% chance to save against the damage from the Howler's Howl. This is a special effect of a creature on this variant. So you could slot wisdom feats for people if they had it. It gives them a chance to save. It's up to you whether you find that useful or not. But generally speaking, it's for patron access, for buff access, and for variant access. Started playing at the Epic Store giveaway. I'm playing my second free time gate, and it's thrown me Deacon, who's performing better than anything else I have. Nova and Keelik are working well with their synergy. Any advice who is the next must-have character when I open a time gate deliberately? Well, you want to build towards split the party, so that means filling out a second champion in every slot. So then it's going to depend on, what slots you have available. So it's hard to say because, it's hard to say because I don't know what champs you have open. When a chest says you get a guaranteed epic in the next 4 chests, do you need to actually have 4 of the chests in your inventory, or does it keep track of it? It keeps track of it. It keeps track of it. If you have 3 out of 4 and open them, then a week later get another one, will that have epic gear? Yeah, no, it keeps track. It constantly keeps track. So even if you run out, it's going to keep track for you. New player, what does the circle on the champions in the formation indicate? Things like blue, red, yellow, etc. So the red is your health. The yellow is any shield, like temporary hit point shields you have. The little blue bar inside, that's your attack cooldown, showing you a visual recharge. And then everything over here are different buffs and debuffs. It's really not the most useful interface, so I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, to be quite honest with you. I have a general question. If you have, say, Jaheira and Minsk, would it be better to just go heavy against a favored type or spread evenly between two of the types found in the adventure? That's kind of your call. You're gonna get hard stuck one way or the other when you're focusing on things like that. Primarily with Minsk, Jaheira works differently than you think. Jaheira ramps up bonuses based off the things you're killing. So Jaheira you base on the thing that's going to be the most of, that you're going to kill the most of in the adventure. Whereas Minsk increases your damage against something, and that's a different thing. You're going to get hard stuck on whatever you put Minsk on. Like anything that isn't whatever your Minsk's favorite enemy is, you're gonna get stuck on. That's why, generally speaking, you get rid of Minsk as early as possible, and find another option in his slot to be support. And that's, frankly, is the best option you're going to have there is freely if you have a choice. How long should I focus on the time gate for gear? I'm currently level 300. Don't think I'll be able to get to 400. Once you've cleared 300, and if you would have to work all weekend to get to 400, it ain't worth it. Just bail. How much favor do you recommend to have to go after Dragon Bait? Nowadays, people to soft cap, you're going to want like E22. I know for a fact it can be done at E18, but you need very specific champions. You need certain powerful champions. If you don't have them, you're going to need more favor to make up for it. So E20 is probably the minimum goal to shoot for if you're unsure of how strong your formation is, with E22 being something that's going to get you through it no matter what. I need to pick up one character in slot 10 for Split the Party, Havilar. How do you unlock slots 10, 11, and 12? What favor do you need? A lot. Just keep playing in the game, Vorshin. You're going to get there. It's not that big of a deal. You just keep playing and keep unlocking things, and you'll get to 10, 11, and 12, and then there'll be open life all the time. That's a power thing. Don't really work. Don't really work necessarily. You're going to work for that naturally. And that's going to be it, folks. I made it through all the questions. I hurried, but we got there. What's coming up? On our way out, we're going to hear a song for Zorbu, another one of the champions, one of the CNE Originals that we've done a song for. Man, that one's called Hate Makes You Cold. I can tell you, he's a hateful little racist gnome. I don't know why he's chaotic good. He's an evil little bugger. He's genocidal. How is that good? I don't understand. So I don't think we have anything on Mondays yet anymore. We don't have a Monday show anymore. Eventually there will be another Monday show, because they don't get rid of shows and then not have a Monday show. So Tuesday, all the CNE streams will be back on Tuesday in the morning with Champions of Psychology. So I will see you all then. Remember, Wednesday, the time gate's gonna wrap up over the weekend roughly. You get 72 hours from whenever you open it. But Wednesday we will have Dragon Down, Year 4, and we will see the return of Korth and Nova, and we will see the arrival of Celise, which is wonderful. Celise is going to be a sword and board tank with lots of unique functionality. Gonna be neat. So I will see you then, because I believe Mars took this coming week off. I think he's on vacation. Mars taking a much needed break. If that holds true, then I may stream more. I may stream on Wednesday with new content. Not on this channel, though, on my own channel. So give me a follow, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr. We're going to roll out and listen to... oh, that was the wrong button. I just screwed up everything. No, I can't see anything. We're going to roll out with Hate Makes You Cold once I can find the right button. There we go. Hate Makes You Cold, the song for Zorbu. Have a good weekend, everybody. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Sloop so tall, never thought that one mistake could take away it all. I live a ranger's life but never heard the call. I will avenge my family until the day I fall. Bodies hit the floor, my temper's short, and my list of fools is long. I'll cleanse the underdog of all who's done me wrong. Tell me that revenge you wish that special cold, but it has made it easier. It makes you grow. A ranger's life is right for me. It's more precious than your gold, but I trade it all away to just go home. Through my veins, it's all you're left with late at night when your hatred holds the reins. But I still could feel an ocean made of pain, past so far behind, it'll never be the same. Tell me that revenge is that special cold, but it hasn't made it easier. It makes you grow. A ranger's life is right for me. It's more precious than your gold, but I trade it all away to just go home. My partner Thunderbolt has never let me down. Drop and expose and let it fly. They'll be by my side when I'm put in the ground. Lifelong friends whose cause never die. Oh, they tell me that revenge is a dish that's special cold, but it hasn't made it easier. It makes you grow. The ranger's life is right for me. More precious than your gold, but I trade